gouache, Himi gouache, jelly gouache, Himi jelly gouache, whatever you want to name it. Is this paint worth it for a beginner or for a professional? People know it for its jelly consistency. People know it for its affordability, for the amount of paint you're getting in one palette. Now, I did have a hard time opening these. I always hate opening each individual one. I bought this palette for $18 on Amazon. I think it was on sale though, and like I said before, it's pretty affordable for the amount of paint you're getting. The consistency is very jelly-like. It's very different from regular gouache. The gouache I use is usually Holbein. Probably wondering, do I want this? Would this be perfect for me? I got you. Now, first off, the vibrancy is moderately okay. It could have more saturation within the paint. I don't know if like just me mixing like muddy water kind of diminished it, or adding too much white diminished it, but I noticed throughout painting this, it wasn't as vibrant as, let's say, my Holbein gouache would be. How does it mix? I mean, it mixes fine. Similar to, let's say, Holbein. Holbein is much more thicker than this paint, and the way I use Holbein, I let it dry out and then I like kind of treat it like watercolor with my little palette, and then sometimes I'll just take it out of the tube and mix it like that. Consistency, it's very interesting. I didn't apply as much water as I would for like my Holbein gouache, mostly because I think it's already, I don't know what makes it like very jelly. I don't know what kind of formula they put in their paint, but it is more of a thinner paint than, let's say, Holbein. I'm just gonna be tagging Holbein in this entire video. I noticed if you don't mix the paints before you use them though, it runs pretty thin. I did it for the white because it was very visible. It had like a weird oily look to it, but for the other ones I did not. And I think for one of the paints I took a swab of the oily looking part, and then it was not cute. It was very weird. I always underestimate how much paint I usually need, so I kept running out, or I just didn't use, like, let's say the yellow as much as I anticipated for. With the paint that I didn't use that much, I compensated with lots of water, which is, I noticed it does not do well. It's very streaky, or it's very like thin layered, which I did not want. I think when it came to layering, I added a lot more layers than I usually do. I felt like I had to keep adding more layers on the face. First of all, okay, I don't know if any of y'all know the reference I'm using, but it's from Call Me By Your Name, and this is Timothée Chalamet. I know it does not look like Timothée Chalamet. You do not need to tell me. You do not be like, oh, she sucks because she can't draw it. Listen. I paint to practice. I don't paint to make people look alike. So if you're gonna be a hater, why are you watching this video? And if you're gonna continue to hate, at least watch the entire video. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll call this person Timmy Chat. Yeah, this is Timmy Chat. Anyways, so I had to keep adding more layers on the face because it was too streaky, or the paint wasn't getting picked up on his cheeks. In the way I use Holbein gouache, I kind of like layer on the blush parts, so like the cheeks, the nose, the lips, the ears, and then I go over with like a lighter layer or lighter color and then go from that. I think when I did this, it kind of started to pick up the layer I had underneath. I don't know if it was because I just didn't wait for the layer to dry, so then I just kept touching it when it wasn't ready to be added upon. But I think over time it got slightly better and it started to look more like Timothée Chalamet, but it was still pretty Timmy. It was still Timmy. It was still Tim. It was Tim. Again, I use a little bit of water so that it can glide smoothly. I think the most time I used a lot of water was just to rinse my brush, to be honest. If there were some patches, I would just layer it again, adding less water, but remember to let it dry before you apply another layer, because there's this one spot, I don't know if you can see it, but it did not. It picked up and it just refused to go back down. Now the reactivation part. It reactivates pretty solidly. Like if I applied a bit lighter color on his face, it would blend with the darker parts. Not as well as I'd like it to do, like with my Holbein, but if I kept at it, it would take some paint off. Again, I don't know, like if I'd have to work with it to get a better understanding with each medium. You have to understand like how it works. I think if I continue to practice with this paint, which I will, and let me know if you want to see more paintings with this palette, I think I would possibly most likely get a better understanding, because it's not really like gouache, like regular gouache. Now, I made Vibrancy and color its own little segment, but I'm just gonna say color. For color, I don't know if I just mixed the wrong color, but I felt like it could have been better. If I didn't add too much white, it could have maybe been more vibrant, like the bit of the orange book that I put near the end. I don't know if I just also used the wrong reference. It was kind of like a very, I don't know, because he's very pale. I made him very, very tan in this painting. But again, I had to like really try to finesse and learn how it works. Is it made for beginners? I think if you want to try gouache but not like pay $80 for a set of like Holbein gouache or any competitors, I think it's a solid palette to try. The only thing I advise is that it's going to be hard to work with if you have no painting background. I think because I've been painting with oil, watercolor, and unfortunately acrylic for a very long time, it definitely helps me get an understanding of what I'm working with. Also, I've already painted with gouache, obviously, so it's my main medium, so I really have like a basic understanding of it already. Would I switch it out with my Holbein gouache? No. But would I practice with it? Yes. I just don't think I would ever like make a full illustration with it, because I don't know, I'm very nitpicky with my paints. Honestly, Holbein it's a ride or die for me. It's my preferred brand. When it comes to mixing colors, I understand it can be overwhelming with the amount of colors, but for each painting, maybe limit yourself to 5 or 6, not including the white. When I say this, they come in different packs. I think there's one that has like over 50 colors. The one I got was I think 16 or 18 colors, and I think that's enough for me. I don't like to overdo it. Even my Holbein set is like maybe like 8 colors, and I just really use like maybe 3 or 4 colors excluding white. So would I say it's made for beginners? Yes and no. If you want to learn something new, then but pay affordably, I say yeah. But just keep in mind, when you actually decide to go for a more higher quality gouache, you're gonna have to like retrain yourself of like, how does this work? Now, is it good for traveling? Sure. Maybe if you wanted to buy a smaller tin can and like put your desired colors in it, that would make it better. I don't know how well it would do like being worked as with like, if it were dry and then you just treat it like regular gouache, or if it would be kept moist jelly consistency in that set tin that you put it in. But you could definitely travel with the whole thing, honestly. I think I brought one of my old palettes with me, same size, different color, to Mexico. Never used it because I was just having the time of my life in Mexico. But you could definitely travel with it, and it comes with a palette inside too, which is awesome. But I don't like how the color is yellow. The palette is yellow. I kind of wish it was like white, because I like to, it's hard to tell like what color I'm mixing on the palette. Does it do well with detailed work? I think it's possible. I've definitely seen people create beautiful and detailed work with it. And painting in a sketchbook, is it good for painting in a sketchbook? I say definitely. I'm definitely gonna practice more with this and maybe make a follow-up video within like maybe 6 months or a year and see like if I finessed it, and I could teach y'all what I've learned through that. Would I buy it again or gift it for someone? I have actually gifted it to 2 separate people, and they both seemed to enjoy it. If you're someone who does art for a hobby and want to try something new, I say go for it. If you want to use it more professionally for like projects or commissions, maybe there's a better set out there for you, just more expensive. And if you want to go for more expensive and better quality, I suggest just using your 3 main like tones, like red, yellow, blue, and then a white. You don't need black, honestly. It just makes the whole, at least in my opinion, it just really dulls out the colors if you mix it. Unless you use it for line art, then I guess that's fine. I also wanted to answer some questions I asked you on YouTube and Instagram, what you would like me to answer about these paints. The first question is, how do I find the right consistency? I'd say do a swatch ratio of what works best for you. Write down how much of the paint you use, how much of the water you use, the consistency of that, and see like what looks best, and then apply that for your practices, paintings, whatever you call it. What paint is more similar to this? Is it watercolors, acrylic, oil? And this is just a basic thing for maybe like gouache in general, but I would say it's in the middle of watercolor and acrylic. Acrylic in the sense that it is very opaque and it applies thickly, but if you add enough water, it can be be treated like watercolor. Is it close to oil? No, not at all. Oil is its complete own separate thing. Any tips on keeping it from being too streaky? I would say maybe add less water and don't apply too thickly, in the sense of like adding too much paint on like one go, because you dry it and then it's going to be like, you know, streaky. And also when you mix your colors, make sure that it's mixed very well. If you use a palette knife, that would definitely help, so that, because if you mix with a brush, you know, there's going to be little pigments of that like one color, and then when you put it down, it's going to be like, oh no. What's the difference between the gouache and a basic gouache? Again, I think it's the jelly consistency. Obviously it's not the greatest quality of gouache. I think the pigment color could be a bit better, but for regular gouache, it doesn't have a jelly consistency. It has a regular schmegular consistency of paint, as let's say like acrylic. Is it worth the price? 100%. $18. Like, that's under $20. That's like a Christmas gift right there. I do recommend it, especially if you don't have a lot of money to invest in your supplies. Maybe ask for it for whatever, Christmas, birthday, Hanukkah, I don't know what other holidays. Any advice for beginners? Again, I would say be patient with yourself. It's not going to be perfect at the beginning, and don't add too much water because it's already pretty watery on its own. And never add black. Never use black to mix. Just use a complementary color of each other to make the tone or color darker. Just saying. Does it smell bad? I've read it's like strong chemicals. No, it's not toxic. Real gouache though has some chemicals that have a label warning that says this product contains chemicals that is known to cause cancer in the state of California. Particularly, I've noticed the white of like Holbein gouache smells. It's an interesting smell, but I wouldn't say it smells bad, but it's definitely you could definitely tell it's not something you should be inhaling, which I think it's important, and this goes for like any type of paint, maybe even watercolor. I think pretty sure watercolor, for like good quality watercolor paints. Always be sure to like have a window open or have like some type of air ventilation, air purifier, so that, you know, you protect your lungs from like inhaling so much of this like paint. And that is it. So have you used this paint before? Do you like it? If not, what is your preferred brand of gouache? Can you guess mine? Because if you can't guess, then oh my gosh, you have not been listening this entire video. If you want to further support me, you can follow me on Instagram. I have TikTok too. Maybe subscribe would be nice. I also have an online store. I do commissions, and yeah, I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.